Dim the lights, let the fan hum softly, and sink into your pillow as the world fades. Step into a dazzling poolside gala where Ethan Caldwell, a tech billionaire cloaked in arrogance, silences his brilliant manager, Evelyn Carter. Her bold voice steals the night, sparking his fury and her dismissal. Yet as his empire crumbles, Evelyn's return ignites a revival of Skypulse and of Ethan's heart. From fiery clashes to tender confessions, their journey weaves ambition, betrayal, and a love that redefines success. Will their bond survive the world's scrutiny? What secrets will their triumph reveal? Rate this story 0-10 in the comments and share your thoughts. What sparks will it ignite in you? Subscribe to drift into more tales, and stay until the end to uncover their legacy. Good night, and let the story unfold. The sun bled molten gold into the horizon, its dying light glinting off the infinity pool that stretched like a sheet of liquid obsidian across Ethan Caldwell's sprawling estate. The air hummed with the promise of the evening, a poolside gala that would draw the tech world's elite, their ambitions as sharp as the crystal flutes being polished to a gleam. Ethan, the 36-year-old billionaire behind Skypulse, stood at the heart of this orchestrated spectacle, a man whose golden hair and piercing blue eyes masked a heart forged in arrogance. His empire, built on relentless innovation and a ruthless disregard for sentiment, had made him a titan, and a solitary one. Tonight, the gala would be his stage, where every handshake was a deal, every smile a weapon. Inside the glass-walled penthouse office of Skypulse's headquarters, Ethan paced, his tailored charcoal suit crisp as a blade. The city skyline glittered beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, a kingdom he'd conquered with code and cunning. But his jaw was tight, a rare crack in his polished facade. His usual companion for such events, a rotating cast of socialites who knew their role as silent ornaments, had canceled at the last minute. A betrayal, however small, in his meticulously controlled world. He needed a +1, someone to project effortless dominance, to stand at his side and reflect his power. Time, however, was a luxury he didn't have. His fingers drummed against the sleek mahogany desk, each tap a pulse of irritation, a metronome counting down to the gala's opening chord. His gaze snagged on Evelyn Carter, his operations manager, who stood across the room, her silhouette framed against the amber glow of a tablet screen. At 30, Evelyn was an enigma in Ethan's orbit, brilliant yet overlooked, her presence as understated as the black blazer she wore over a cream silk blouse. Her ebony skin glowed under the office lights, her dark hair swept into a sleek chignon, and her brown eyes, sharp with intelligence, scanned data with a precision that had saved Skypulse millions. To Ethan, she was a cog in his machine, her beauty irrelevant, her contributions expected. Employees were tools, not people, and Evelyn was no exception. Yet in this moment of crisis, she was his only option. "Evelyn!" he barked, his voice slicing through the sterile silence. She looked up, her expression calm but alert, like a gazelle sensing a predator's approach. "You're coming to the gala tonight," her brow arched, a flicker of surprise betraying her composure. "The gala, sir." Her voice was steady, professional, but threaded with a curiosity Ethan had no interest in unraveling. "Yes," he snapped, striding toward her, his polished shoes clicking against the marble floor. "My usual escort bailed, and I need someone presentable. You'll do." He stopped a foot away, towering over her, his blue eyes clinical, assessing her as one might a piece of equipment. "Wear something elegant. Stand there, look good, and don't speak. Not a word unless I say so. Understood?" Evelyn's lips parted, a fleeting hesitation, but she closed them and nodded. "Understood, Mr. Caldwell." Her eyes held his for a moment longer than necessary, a spark of something, Defiance, perhaps, glimmering in their depths. Ethan dismissed it, turning back to his desk with a curt wave. She was a means to an end, a prop to fill a gap in his performance. Nothing more. But Evelyn Carter was no prop. As she left the office, her heels whispering against the marble, her mind raced like a storm gathering strength. Ethan's order was clear, a leash meant to bind her to silence, but it was also a key. The Gala would be a window into the world he guarded so fiercely. The investors he courted, the rivals he crushed, the journalists circling for a headline. For 3 years, she'd toiled in Sky Pulse's shadows, her ideas buried under Ethan's arrogance, her potential capped by his indifference. She'd streamlined operations, caught errors, and kept the company's pulse steady, all while he barely acknowledged her name. Tonight, she'd step into his arena, not as a pawn, but as a player. She'd observe, learn, and perhaps find a crack in the impenetrable armor of Ethan Caldwell. As she exited the glass tower, the city's pulse thrummed around her. Car horns, neon lights, the restless energy of ambition. Evelyn's apartment, a modest haven in a quieter district, welcomed her with the scent of jasmine from a potted plant by the window. She stood before her wardrobe, fingers trailing over fabrics until they settled on a sapphire silk gown, its cut daring yet refined, a balance of elegance and power. As she slipped it on, the mirror reflected a woman who was more than Ethan's manager. A strategist, a visionary, a force waiting to be unleashed. The Gala was hours away, and with each passing minute, her resolve hardened. Ethan wanted her invisible, but Evelyn sensed a stage beneath her feet, one where a single step could shift the spotlight. Back at the estate, the poolside was transforming into a spectacle of opulence. Fairy lights twinkled like stars, their reflections dancing on the water. Waiters rehearsed their silent glide, trays balanced with champagne flutes. Ethan stood by the pool, a king surveying his court, his mind already mapping the evening's chessboard. Whom to charm, whom to outmaneuver. He didn't think of Evelyn, not beyond her utility. She was a placeholder, a temporary fix. But as the first guests arrived, their laughter mingling with the clink of glasses, the air crackled with an undercurrent of possibility. The gala was about to begin, and with it, a chain of events that would unravel Ethan's carefully curated world. Evelyn Carter, the woman he'd dismissed, was stepping into the light, and the stage was set for a collision that would change them both forever. The night unfurled like a velvet curtain, and Ethan Caldwell's estate pulsed with the heartbeat of ambition. The infinity pool shimmered under a canopy of fairy lights, its surface a mirror for the stars and the egos that orbited them. Laughter mingled with the clink of champagne flutes, and the air, heavy with jasmine and anticipation, crackled with the unspoken stakes of the gala. Ethan, resplendent in a tailored black suit, stood at the center of this glittering arena, his golden hair catching the light, his blue eyes sharp as he greeted a venture capitalist with a calculated smile. This was his domain, where every word was a move in a high-stakes game, and he played to win. Beside him, Evelyn Carter, his operations manager, was a shadow in sapphire silk, her presence mandated by his last-minute command. "Stand there. Look good. Don't speak." Evelyn stepped into the gala like a whisper of twilight, her gown hugging her curves with a daring elegance that turned heads. Her ebony skin glowed under the soft lights, her dark hair swept into a chignon that framed her poised features. She felt the weight of curious glances, some admiring, others dismissive, sizing her up as Ethan's accessory. Yet she stood taller, her brown eyes scanning the crowd with a strategist's precision. She cataloged faces from industry reports, investors with deep pockets, rivals with sharper tongues, journalists hungry for a scoop. Ethan's order to remain silent was a cage, but Evelyn's mind was a storm, churning with opportunity. She wasn't here to fade. She was here to learn, to map the battlefield of power that Ethan guarded so fiercely. Ethan barely acknowledged her, his focus locked on a cluster of investors as he launched into a pitch about Skypulse's AI revolution. "Our neural networks will redefine predictive analytics," he declared, his voice smooth as steel, earning nods from men in bespoke suits. Evelyn stood at his elbow, silent as instructed, but her mind dissected his words. She noted the gaps he glossed over: ethical concerns, data biases, issues she'd flagged in reports he'd ignored. Her role was to be invisible, but the Gala's pulse, the undercurrent of ambition, stirred something within her. She felt the stage beneath her feet, and though she wore Ethan's leash, she was no prop. The dynamic shifted when Clara Voss, a venture capitalist renowned for piercing corporate facades, joined the group. Her silver hair gleamed, her hazel eyes sharp as she scanned the circle, landing on Evelyn. Ethan's introduction was curt. "Evelyn, my manager." He didn't meet her gaze, already pivoting to charm Clara, whose investments could propel Skypulse's next leap. Evelyn offered a polite smile, expecting to retreat into the background. But Clara's gaze lingered, a spark of interest flaring. "Evelyn," she said, her voice warm yet probing, "what's your take on AI's ethical tightrope? Ethan's betting big. But where's the line?" The question sliced through the hum of the Gala, a challenge wrapped in silk. The investors turned, their expressions a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Ethan's jaw tightened, a flicker of irritation crossing his face as he shot Evelyn a warning glance. His command echoed in her mind. Don't speak. Silence was her role, her prison. But Clara's question was a key, and Evelyn's resolve snapped into place. She wasn't just Ethan's shadow. She was a mind honed by years of navigating Skypulse's chaos, a voice that deserved to be heard. "It's a delicate balance," Evelyn began, her voice clear, cutting through the chatter like a bell. "AI's potential is limitless, but without ethical guardrails, it's a runaway train. Transparency in algorithms is critical. Black box models erode trust. And diversity in data isn't a buzzword. It's a shield against bias." She paused, her gaze steady on Clara. "Skypulse is pushing boundaries, but the real victory lies in marrying innovation with accountability. That's where trust and profit reside." Her words landed like a spark in dry grass. Clara's lips curved into a smile, her eyes alight with approval. "Well said," she replied, leaning in. "How does Skypulse plan to address bias in its neural nets?" The investors shifted closer, drawn by Evelyn's clarity. A journalist nearby scribbled furiously, sensing a story. Ethan stood frozen, his champagne flute gripped too tightly, his smile a brittle mask. Evelyn felt his glare, a silent reprimand, but she pressed on, her voice gaining strength. "It starts with people," she said. "Hire diverse teams, not just coders who echo each other. Audit data rigorously. Open source parts of the process to invite scrutiny. That's how you build systems that serve, not exploit." The group erupted into questions, their attention locked on Evelyn. A rival CEO, intrigued, asked about sustainability, and she fielded it with ease, weaving in blockchain integration, a topic Ethan rarely touched. Clara nodded, visibly impressed, and slipped Evelyn her card, murmuring, "We should talk." The crowd around them swelled, guests drawn from other conversations, magnetized by Evelyn's intellect and poise. She stood at the center, her sapphire gown catching the light, no longer a shadow, but a beacon. Her answers were sharp, yet accessible, her confidence a quiet fire, and for the first time, she felt the thrill of being seen. Not as Ethan's appendage, but as Evelyn Carter, a force in her own right. Ethan, meanwhile, drifted to the edge of the circle, his presence eclipsed. His knuckles whitened around his glass as he watched Evelyn command the room. Each laugh she drew, each nod she earned, felt like a theft of his spotlight, his control. The Gala, meant to cement his dominance, was slipping through his fingers, and Evelyn was the thief. Fury churned within him, but beneath it, a quieter emotion stirred, something like awe, quickly smothered by his pride. As the pool's reflection danced and the night deepened, Evelyn's star rose, and Ethan's world tilted, setting the stage for a reckoning that would shake the foundations of his empire. The Gala's glow faded behind the sleek black sedan as it carved through the city's neon veins, carrying Ethan Caldwell and Evelyn Carter away from the poolside spectacle that had upended their worlds. The silence inside the car was a living thing, thick and charged, broken only by the hum of the engine and the distant pulse of the city. Ethan sat rigid, his jaw a taut line, his blue eyes fixed on the blurred lights beyond the tinted window. His champagne flute from the Gala, now empty, lay discarded in his hand, a cold relic of the night's betrayal. Evelyn, beside him, gazed out her window, her sapphire gown catching faint glimmers from passing streetlights. Her heart still raced from the triumph of stealing the spotlight, her voice commanding the elite, but she felt the storm brewing in Ethan's silence. She braced herself, her mind sharp, ready for the reckoning she knew was coming. At the Gala, Evelyn had shattered Ethan's command to remain invisible, her intellect and poise eclipsing his carefully curated image. Clara Voss's approving nod, the investor's rapt attention, the journalist's furious scribbling. Each moment had been a theft, in Ethan's eyes, of his stage, his power. He had stood sidelined, a king dethroned by the woman he'd dismissed as a prop. Now, as the sedan glided toward Sky Pulse's glass monolith of a headquarters, the weight of his fury pressed against the air, a prelude to the explosion Evelyn anticipated. She refused to shrink, her chin high, her brown eyes steady. She had spoken the truth and the world had listened. Whatever came next, she would face it as herself, not as Ethan's shadow. The elevator's ascent to Ethan's penthouse office was a silent cage, its mirrored walls reflecting their stark contrast. Ethan's golden hair and clenched fists, Evelyn's serene composure and sapphire elegance. Her heels clicked softly against the marble as they stepped into the office, a sterile cathedral of steel and glass, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city like a conquered realm. Ethan strode to his desk, his back to her, his shoulders taut as bowstrings. The silence stretched, a taut wire ready to snap, until he spun to face her, his voice a low, venomous blade. "What the hell was that, Evelyn?" His hands slammed onto the desk, the sound sharp as a gunshot. "I told you to stay silent, silent! And you turned my Gala into your stage?" Evelyn stood tall, her gaze unflinching, her voice calm but edged with steel. "I answered a question, Ethan. Clara Voss asked my perspective and I gave it. For Sky Pulse's sake, not mine. I spoke to strengthen your company's image, not undermine it." Her words were measured, but they carried the weight of 3 years. Years of catching his oversights, saving millions and being ignored. She stepped closer, her eyes locked on his. "If you can't see that, you're blind to your empire." "Strengthen?" Ethan's laugh was bitter, a jagged shard of sound. "You humiliated me. You think those investors care about your little ethics lecture? They were there for me, for my vision." He advanced, towering over her, his face a mask of rage. "You're a manager, Evelyn, a nobody. You don't get to play the star." His words cut, each one a dismissal of her worth, her brilliance reduced to nothing by his wounded pride. Her breath caught, not from fear, but from the sting of his contempt. A nobody. 3 years of holding Sky Pulse together, of navigating his arrogance, erased in a single breath. Yet she held his gaze, her voice steady, resolute. "If I'm a nobody, why did Clara Voss give me her card? Why did your guests listen?" She paused, letting the truth sink in. I didn't seek the spotlight, Ethan. I spoke the truth, and they valued it. If that threatens you, that's your failure, not mine. His eyes narrowed, a flicker of doubt crossing his face, but his pride smothered it, like a flame snuffed out. You defied me, he hissed, his voice low and dangerous. You broke my explicit order. You're done here, Evelyn. Pack your things and get out. The words fell like a guillotine, final and cold, severing her from the company she'd poured her soul into. Evelyn's lips parted, a moment of shock betraying her composure, but she quickly steadied herself. She searched his face for a trace of reason, of the man who'd built Skypulse from nothing, but found only the arrogance that defined him. Her heart, though bruised, refused to break. If that's your decision, she said, her voice quiet but unyielding, I respect it. She turned, her gown swishing softly, and walked toward the door, each step a shedding of his tyranny. At the threshold, she paused, glancing back, her eyes piercing. You'll regret this, Ethan. Not because of me, but because you can't see what's right in front of you. The door closed with a soft click, a sound that echoed like thunder in Ethan's ears. He stood frozen, fists clenched, the silence of the office swallowing him whole. Victory should have tasted sweet, control restored, defiance crushed. But as Evelyn's words lingered, a hollow ache gnawed at him, a whisper of doubt he refused to name. He poured a scotch from the decanter on his desk, the amber liquid trembling in the glass. She was replaceable, he told himself, a cog in his machine. Skypulse would thrive without her. Yet, as the city glittered beyond the windows, its lights mocking his solitude, Ethan felt the first tremor of a truth he wasn't ready to face. He had just cast out the one person who might have been his salvation. The glass walls of Skypulse's headquarters reflected a city that pulsed with relentless ambition. But within, the empire Ethan Caldwell had forged was crumbling. Weeks had passed since Evelyn Carter's departure. Her parting words, "You'll regret this, Ethan," echoing like a prophecy in the sterile corridors. Ethan sat at his mahogany desk, the weight of a scotch glass familiar in his hand, its amber contents dwindling as the nights stretched longer. The office, once a beacon of precision under Evelyn's steady hand, now thrummed with discord. Reports piled up, their margins scrawled with errors she would have caught. Screens flickered with urgent emails from clients, their trust fraying. Ethan's blue eyes, once sharp with command, were bloodshot, shadowed by sleeplessness, and a gnawing unease he refused to name. Evelyn's absence was a wound that festered swiftly. A flagship AI product, rushed to market without her meticulous audits, imploded in a cascade of glitches, its predictive models spitting out gibberish that cost millions in refunds. Headlines screamed of Skypulse's decline, branding Ethan's vision as reckless hubris. Clients, once loyal, defected to competitors, their parting calls laced with disdain. Engineers, crushed by Ethan's unrelenting demands, began whispering of better offers elsewhere. "Fix it or you're gone," he barked at a trembling team lead in a meeting, his voice a whip that drove talent away. 2 senior developers resigned within days, their exit interviews a litany of grievances. No direction, no respect, no Evelyn. Ethan buried himself in work, his temper a live wire, sparking at the slightest misstep. Meetings became battlegrounds, his sarcasm slicing through junior staff like shrapnel. "If you can't handle basic code, why are you here?" he snapped at a young analyst, oblivious to the room's stifled resentment. Yet, alone in his office, the facade cracked. He'd found Evelyn's final report, buried under a stack of papers, its precise warnings of the failures now plaguing Skypulse staring back at him. Her absence was a void, not just in operations but in the company's soul. Skypulse had been a machine, and Evelyn its heartbeat. Without her, it sputtered, teetering on the edge of collapse. The board, once deferential to Ethan's brilliance, grew restless. At a tense meeting in the glass-walled conference room, the chairman, Victor Langston, leaned forward, his voice cold as marble. "Your leadership is sinking us, Caldwell. Investors are bailing. Fix this, or we'll find someone who can." Ethan's jaw clenched, his pride a burning coal in his chest. He promised a turnaround, spinning grandiose plans for a new product launch, but his words lacked the clarity Evelyn had brought. The board's eyes, once admiring, now judged him, their skepticism a noose tightening around his rein. He left the meeting, his footsteps heavy, the weight of their ultimatum pressing against his ribs. Nights blurred into dawns, and Ethan's thoughts drifted to the poolside gala, the night Evelyn had unraveled his world. Her voice, clear and confident, had captivated the elite, her sapphire gown a beacon in the crowd. He'd fired her for stealing a spotlight, but now, staring at the city's glittering skyline, he saw the truth. She'd been the light, and he'd cast her out. The memory of her poise, her defiance haunted him, not just as a loss to Skypulse, but as something personal, a warmth he'd never acknowledged. He shoved the thought away, pouring another drink, but it lingered, a splinter in his mind, sharp and unrelenting. Desperation clawed at him, driving him to action. He tracked Evelyn down, learning she'd joined Clara Voss's firm, a rising star in ethical tech. Her LinkedIn profile glowed with praise. Visionary strategist, transformative leader. Ethan's stomach twisted. Jealousy, regret, or something deeper? He dialed her number, his fingers trembling, his voice tight with a humility he despised. "Evelyn, Skypulse is dying," he said, the words tasting of ash. "I need you back, please." The line crackled with silence, each second a verdict on his failures. Her response was ice, tempered with resolve. "I'm not doing this for you, Ethan. The team deserves better than your collapse. I'll return, but on my terms. Full control of the recovery, no interference." Ethan, cornered by the specter of bankruptcy, swallowed his pride and agreed, his voice barely a whisper. "Whatever you need." He hung up, relief warring with dread. Evelyn was coming back, but not as his subordinate. She was a force he could no longer control, a reckoning in sapphire who held the keys to his empire's salvation. The next morning, as dawn painted the city in hues of rose and gold, Ethan stood by his office window, the Scotch glass abandoned. The skyline, once a symbol of his conquest, now felt like a taunt, a reminder of how close he'd come to losing it all. Evelyn's return loomed, a beacon of hope and a mirror to his failures. He thought of her final report, its pages still on his desk, and the weight of her words at the gala, her clarity cutting through his arrogance. Skypulse was faltering, but her shadow still lingered in its halls, a promise of redemption he wasn't sure he deserved. As the city woke, Ethan braced for her arrival, knowing that the woman he dismissed would either save his empire or expose the cracks in his soul that no amount of pride could mend. The glass corridors of Skypulse's headquarters thrummed with a renewed pulse, as if the building itself had drawn a shuddering breath after months of suffocation. Evelyn Carter's return was a storm breaking over a parched land, her presence igniting a spark in the ashes of Ethan Caldwell's faltering empire. She stepped into the lobby, her auburn hair pulled back, her tailored navy blazer sharp against her ebony skin. But it was her brown eyes, fierce, unyielding, that commanded the space. Whispers of her name rippled through the staff, their tired faces flickering with hope. Evelyn had demanded full control to save Skypulse, and Ethan, humbled by the specter of bankruptcy, had yielded. Yet, as she moved through the office, a force of quiet authority, Ethan watched from the sidelines, his blue eyes tracing her every step, a tumult of gratitude and resentment churning within him. Evelyn wasted no time. Her first act was an all-hands meeting in the main conference room, its glass walls framing a city that gleamed with possibility. The room buzzed with wary anticipation as engineers, coders, and analysts packed the seats, their eyes darting between Evelyn and Ethan, who stood at the back, arms crossed. She stepped to the front. No podium, no pretense. Her voice clear and resonant. "This company is yours as much as it's anyone's," she declared. "You know where the cracks are. Speak, and we'll fix them together." A junior developer, hesitant, raised a hand, citing outdated workflows that stifled innovation. Evelyn nodded, jotting notes on a tablet. "We'll streamline them. What else?" The room thawed, voices rising. Ideas for bug fixes, pleas for work-life balance, dreams of projects Ethan had shelved. Evelyn listened, her focus a lifeline, and by the end, the team was hers. Their loyalty no longer coerced, but earned. She moved with surgical precision, rolling out changes that breathed life into SkyPulse's bones. Weekly skill-sharing sessions replaced Ethan's mandatory overtime, letting coders learn from designers, marketers from engineers. A mentorship program paired veterans with new hires, fostering a loyalty that Ethan's threats had never inspired. Evelyn pored over financials, redirecting funds from flashy PR campaigns to R&D, ensuring the failed AI product, a neural network that had humiliated SkyPulse, would be reborn flawless. Her office, once a sterile annex, became a hub where staff dropped by with ideas or gripes, her door always open. A barista turned intern, emboldened, pitched a sustainability feature for the AI platform. Evelyn greenlit it, her smile a quiet validation that sent the young woman beaming. Profits ticked upward, client trust returned, and the board's skepticism softened, whispers of her brilliance reaching their ears. Ethan, relegated to observer, felt the ground shift beneath him. He'd agreed to her terms, no interference, but watching her transform his company chafed his pride. In meetings, he lingered at the back, his gaze fixed on Evelyn as she annotated whiteboards, her questions sharp, her encouragement genuine. He saw the team's spark reignite, the same spark he'd glimpsed in her at the poolside gala before he'd cast her out. Her leadership was a mirror, reflecting his failures. Where he'd ruled by fear, she inspired trust. Where he'd chased headlines, she built foundations. He wanted to resent her, to cling to the belief that his way had forged SkyPulse's rise. But the truth was undeniable. Evelyn was salvaging what he'd nearly destroyed. One evening, as the office emptied, Ethan found her in the server room, reviewing diagnostics for the upcoming AI relaunch. The hum of machines filled the air, their blue glow casting shadows across her face. "You're relentless," he said, his voice gruff, breaking the quiet. Evelyn glanced up, her expression neutral. "It's what the team needs." She turned back to the screen, but Ethan lingered, drawn by a need to understand her alchemy. "How do you do it?" he asked, softer now. "They're working harder than ever, but they're happy." Evelyn set down her tablet, her eyes meeting his, piercing through his defenses. "People aren't machines, Ethan. They thrive when you value them, not when you exploit them. Listen to them, give them purpose, and they'll move mountains." Her words cut, not with malice but with clarity, exposing the hollowness of his reign. "You led by control," she continued, her tone steady. "I lead by serving. That's the difference." She paused, then added, "If you want SkyPulse to last, learn from them, not just from me." Ethan's chest tightened, a tangle of shame and awe. He wanted to argue, to defend the empire he'd built, but her truth was a blade he couldn't parry. He nodded, mute, and left, her words echoing in the quiet. Over the next days, he shadowed her, a silent observer in team huddles. He saw a coder's face light up when Evelyn praised his debug. He heard analysts brainstorm fixes she'd empowered them to own. Tentatively, he began to ask questions, not commands but genuine queries. "Why prioritize this feature?" he asked a designer, who answered with enthusiasm, unbraced for his usual scorn. The team noticed their wariness easing, and Ethan felt a shift within himself, a crack in the armor of his arrogance, a whisper of change he wasn't ready to name. As Skypulse steadied, Evelyn's presence stirred more than the company's fortunes. Ethan caught himself watching her, the way her fingers danced over keyboards, the quiet focus in her eyes. She was more than a savior, she was a force, her strength tempered by compassion. The Gala flashed in his mind, her sapphire gown, her voice commanding the elite. He'd fired her for that brilliance, but now it was his lifeline. As the office hummed with renewed purpose, Ethan stood at the threshold of a new realization, one that would test not just his leadership but his heart, in ways he could scarcely fathom. The air in Skypulse's headquarters thrummed, with a vitality that had been absent for months, its glass corridors alive with the hum of collaboration and purpose. Evelyn Carter's leadership had woven a new tapestry for the company. Mentorship programs, open forums, and a culture of trust replacing Ethan Caldwell's reign of fear. The failed AI platform, once a public humiliation, was on track for a triumphant relaunch, its code refined under Evelyn's meticulous oversight. Clients returned, profits climbed, and the board's icy skepticism thawed into cautious praise. Yet, amidst this corporate resurrection, a quieter transformation unfolded in Ethan. Evelyn's words in the server room, "I lead by serving," had cracked his armor, and the man who once ruled by control now stood at a crossroads, his blue eyes tracing her every move, a tangle of admiration and longing stirring within him. Ethan's change was tentative, like a seedling pushing through cracked earth. He lingered in team meetings, no longer barking orders but asking questions, his voice stripped of its usual edge. When a young coder pitched a data optimization tweak, Ethan leaned forward, his golden hair catching the light. "How would that scale?" he asked, and the coder blinked, unused to his curiosity, then answered with gusto. The team noticed, their guarded glances softening, and Evelyn, ever watchful, saw it too. Her brown eyes caught his efforts, her silence a subtle nod, urging him down a path he was only beginning to navigate. Ethan felt her gaze, not as judgment but as a challenge to shed the arrogance that had cost him so much. Their late-night work sessions became a ritual, the office dim save for the glow of monitors and the city skyline beyond. They pored over launch timelines, debated feature priorities, and fine-tuned investor pitches, their synergy a quiet dance of intellect and resolve. Evelyn's focus was relentless, her insights sharp, but a warmth crept into their exchanges, a laugh when a typo slipped into a report, a fleeting smile when Ethan caught an error she'd missed. He found himself lingering on these moments, the way her dark hair fell loose after hours, the quiet strength in her voice. The Gala haunted him still, her sapphire gown, her defiance. But now it was a memory of awe, not anger. She'd been a force then, and she was a force now, pulling him toward a version of himself he'd never known. One evening, after a grueling client call that secured a major contract, they sat in the break room, coffee cups steaming between them. The conversation drifted from work to the personal, a rare breach of their unspoken boundaries. Ethan, hesitant, spoke of his childhood, a lonely boy hunched over a computer in a cramped apartment, coding to escape poverty. "Success was my shield," he admitted, his voice low, raw. "But it made me cold." Evelyn listened, her eyes soft but piercing, her coffee untouched. "I understand," she said. "I fought to be seen too. Tech's a walled garden, Every idea I pitched early on was dismissed, until I learned to shout louder. Her candor disarmed him, her vulnerability a mirror to his own. For the first time, Ethan saw her not just as a leader, but as a woman who'd clawed her place against odds, just as he had. Their bond deepened, stitched together by these quiet exchanges. Ethan began seeking her out beyond work, suggesting lunch after a meeting, proposing a walk to clear their heads. Evelyn agreed, her guardedness easing, and their conversations grew richer. Over sandwiches, they debated philosophy. During evening strolls, they laughed at industry gossip. Ethan noticed the small things: her habit of twisting a ring on her finger when deep in thought, the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke of sustainability. Each moment fed a feeling he could no longer deny, a pull that was no longer just admiration, but something tender, alive, dangerous. The tipping point came after a triumphant investor pitch, the conference room buzzing with the team's victory. Evelyn had led the presentation, her command effortless, and the investors signed on, a cornerstone for Skypulse's recovery. As the team dispersed, Ethan caught her in the hallway, his heart pounding against his ribs. "You were incredible today," he said, his voice rough with sincerity. Evelyn smiled, a rare flush coloring her cheeks. "We all were, Ethan. It's the team." He stepped closer, the air between them charged, electric. "No, it's you. You've changed everything. Skypulse, me." His breath hitched, the words spilling before he could cage them. "Evelyn, I'm falling for you. Is there any chance you feel the same?" The hallway seemed to still, the hum of the office fading to a distant murmur. Evelyn's eyes widened, surprise flickering, but she didn't pull away. She studied him, weighing his sincerity against the man who'd fired her, the man who'd begun to listen. "I do," she said finally, her voice soft but sure. "I've felt it for a while, but I needed to know you'd changed, truly. Let's take it slow, Ethan. No rush, no pressure." Relief flooded him, a raw laugh escaping his lips, unguarded and free. "Slow. I can do that." They stepped into a new rhythm, their connection a delicate thread woven through the chaos of Skypulse's rise. Yet, as their feelings bloomed, so did the stakes. The board watched, investors circled, and whispers of their closeness began to ripple. Ethan knew their budding love would face scrutiny, a test of their resolve. Evelyn, too, sensed it, her focus unwavering, but her heart open. The seeds of love had taken root. But the harvest, professional and personal, would demand a strength neither could yet foresee, as the world beyond Skypulse waited to challenge the empire they were rebuilding together. Skypulse's headquarters shimmered with triumph, a far cry from the chaos that had once threatened to consume it. Evelyn Carter's leadership had not only steadied the tech empire, but propelled it to dazzling heights. The AI platform, once a public failure, relaunched to rapturous reviews, its flawless execution drawing clients and investors in droves. The board, once poised to oust Ethan Caldwell, now offered nods of approval, their doubts replaced by admiration. Yet, amidst this corporate renaissance, a deeper transformation bloomed. Ethan, the once arrogant titan, had shed his armor of control, his heart guided by Evelyn's example. Their budding romance, sparked in a charged hallway confession, burned brighter with each shared moment, a delicate flame now facing the winds of scrutiny. As Skypulse soared, the pressures of their love and leadership mounted, testing the legacy they were forging together. Ethan stood at the heart of a revitalized office, no longer a tyrant, but a leader, learning to serve. He credited Evelyn publicly, his voice steady as he told the board, "Her vision saved us." The team noticed his shift. His questions in meetings were thoughtful, his praise genuine. Their relationship, kept discreet to dodge gossip, blossomed in private. Dinners at candlelit bistros turned into late-night talks about dreams and fears, Walks by the river became confessions of past mistakes. Ethan, once guarded, shared the loneliness of his rise. Evelyn, resilient, spoke of battles against dismissal in a male-dominated industry. Each revelation wove their bond tighter, a tapestry of trust and vulnerability. But the world beyond Skypulse was watching. The tech press, sensing a story, speculated about the dynamic duo behind the company's turnaround. A tech trend profile lauded Evelyn's brilliance, but questioned Ethan's transformation, hinting at a romance that could complicate their leadership. The board, though pleased with results, raised concerns about professional boundaries, their whispers reaching Ethan's ears. Evelyn felt the pressure too. Her focus split between steering Skypulse and guarding their fragile love. "We're stronger than their gossip," she told Ethan one evening, her hand squeezing his. He nodded, but doubt gnawed at him. Could he be the partner she deserved, or would his past arrogance cast a shadow? Their resolve faced its crucible at a global tech summit, where Skypulse pitched a sustainability-focused AI platform to international investors. Evelyn led the presentation, her poise commanding the packed auditorium, her ebony skin glowing under the stage lights. Ethan amplified her points, their synergy electric, and the investors erupted in applause, contracts all but signed. But at the gala that followed, a rival CEO, Marcus Holt, cornered Ethan, his smile venomous. "She's carrying you, Caldwell," he sneered. "Everyone knows it's her show. What's she see in you?" The words struck deep, echoing Ethan's fears of unworthiness. He glanced at Evelyn, radiant as she charmed a venture capitalist, and felt a pang, not jealousy, but a fear of falling short. That night, back at his estate, Ethan stood by the pool where their story began, its still waters reflecting a sky ablaze with stars. Evelyn joined him, her presence a balm to his turmoil. "You were quiet after the gala," she said, her voice soft, her dark hair loose in the breeze. "What's wrong?" Ethan hesitated, Holt's taunt burning in his chest. "I don't deserve you," he confessed, his voice raw, trembling. "I fired you, Evelyn. I nearly destroyed Skypulse. Why do you stay?" Her eyes softened, but her gaze was fierce. "Because I see you, Ethan. The man who's learning, who's trying. You're not that arrogant fool anymore. I love you for who you're becoming." Her words shattered his doubt, and he pulled her close, their kiss a vow beneath the starlit sky. From that moment, Ethan resolved to prove his worth, not just to Skypulse, but to her. He doubled his efforts, mentoring coders, championing Evelyn's sustainability initiatives, and addressing board concerns head-on. "Our relationship strengthens our work," he told Victor Langston, the chairman, his tone unyielding. Evelyn stood beside him, her presence a quiet force, and the board, seeing their results, relented. Their love grew bolder, no longer hidden. They arrived at work hand in hand, their professionalism unwavering, but their connection clear. The team, far from skeptical, embraced them, their unity a symbol of Skypulse's new ethos. One spring evening, Ethan led Evelyn back to the poolside, the fairy lights twinkling, as they had at the gala that sparked their saga. He dropped to one knee, a diamond ring catching the starlight. "Evelyn Carter," he said, his voice trembling with certainty. "You've changed my world. Marry me." Tears glistened in her eyes as she whispered, "Yes, Ethan." Their embrace sealed a promise, the pool's reflection a mirror of their journey, from conflict to unity. The wedding was an intimate affair, held under a canopy of lanterns at the estate, attended by the Skypulse team, Clara Voss, and close allies. Evelyn, in a flowing ivory gown, walked toward Ethan, her smile radiant. They vowed to lead with heart, to build a legacy of love and impact. As they danced, the pool shimmering beside them, Ethan felt a peace he'd never known. Years later, Skypulse stood as a global beacon of ethical innovation, its campuses training thousands. Ethan and Evelyn, now parents to a bright-eyed daughter, balanced leadership with family. They launched the Carter Caldwell Foundation, mentoring overlooked talent, a nod to Evelyn's rise. At a company gala under familiar fairy lights, Ethan raised a glass. To Evelyn, who taught me that success is service, and to our team, who make it real. Their love, forged through trials, had built a movement, its ripples just beginning to spread. As the fairy lights fade over Ethan and Evelyn's poolside legacy, their journey from clash to love leaves us with dreams to ponder. What did you think of Evelyn's courage to rise again? Could Ethan's redemption inspire your changes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your heart's take. Thank you for joining us under these starry skies, for letting our tales cradle you into sleep. Subscribe to keep the stories flowing, and share where you're listening from. Until we meet again, keep chasing your sparks of redemption. Good night, dreamers.